Good evening and happy Sunday, pubbers. If anyone's there, as usual, let me know in the comments if you are there, who you are, where you are, what you're reading, etc. I am still reading Disquiet Gods, the 6th book in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Ruocchio. I've been reading it really slowly, comparatively. I read the first 5 books in 4 weeks, I think. And it's taking me quite a while to finish this one because I've gotten sucked into the rabbit hole that is the video game Fallout 4. Hi, John. Yes, everyone is apparently reading Sun Eater. Indeed. I've had it on my list for at least 2 years. I remember Mike talking about it quite a lot already 2 years ago. And I was watching a lot of Mike back then, and I still am. And I said, damn, that sounds like something I definitely need to read. And it took me this long to get to it, unfortunately. Hello, Safina. Haven't seen you in the pub in a little while. Hello, Arnaud. I don't remember if you've been here before. You're definitely not a regular, not every week, but good to see you. Hi, Jerome. Definitely a regular. Good to see you, man. Erin, hello. Hope everyone's well. Yeah, I'm tired today. Fitz has been quite relentlessly waking me up earlier than I would like. Again. But yeah, happens. Caro, good to see you. Hello. Speaking of regulars, Daniel. Haven't gotten any reading done this week. Thought it was a bad week, I would say. But being busy is not bad. Grumpy Smurfs here. Hello, Anita. How am I? I am, like I said, I am a bit tired. I have been not sleeping as much as I would like. I've been, because of watching shows and playing video games, I've probably been going to bed later than I technically should, and then getting woken up early by my floofy alarm clock. Did I get sucked back into Fallout 4 because of the show? Indeed. I didn't get sucked back into Fallout 4. I have a weird history of video game playing. I played a lot of stuff when I was a kid and a teenager, and then I had a couple of decades basically where I didn't play anything. So I missed a lot of what are considered classics, like all of the Fallout series. And all of the Mass Effect series and all of the Halo series. Although I played Halo's predecessor, which a lot of people don't know anything about these days. It was called Marathon, and it only existed on Mac, which was really weird back then for a game. It's still really weird for a game. But yeah, I completely missed Fallout. And I've been going back since they've had like remastered collected editions of various games like Halo and Mass Effect. I've been going back and playing them. And I think I played all of the Halo games last year and all of the Mass Effect games. But I had never gotten to Fallout. It's such a cultural reference thing that everybody know, or I mean, like everybody's at least heard of Fallout and kind of seen some of the images, like, you know, the blonde boy, man, whatever, with his thumb up and that kind of thing. That I've been aware of it for a long time, but I never played it. And then the show convinced me, yes. And then Game Pass, since I subscribe to Game Pass on the Xbox, has Fallout 4 included. So if you pay the subscription for Game Pass, then you have access to Fallout 4 for no extra cost. So that convinced me that that would be the one I would play and not New Vegas or 76 or something else. Your hand is not well, Jerome. I'm sorry to hear that. You hit it so hard, like with a hammer, or did you just slam it against something when you were walking around? Thornall, good to see you. Another regular. Fallout show was not bad. I thought it was really good. I thought, even as someone who doesn't play or hadn't played the games yet, being so aware of the Fallout IP, I thought they did a really good job with it. Just conveying sort of the mood and tone, and also just visually, it seemed like it was very Fallout. And now that I'm playing Fallout 4, it is definitely very Fallout. And I thought it was overall pretty funny. And funny in the same way that the games are. I thought in that sense it was a very good adaptation, although it's not really an adaptation of a story from any of the games. It's more a new story set in the universe of kind of, thing. Mass Effect is John's favorite game of all time. Favorite sci-fi universe too. I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't go that far, but I enjoyed it. I thought the funny thing about playing like the first Mass Effect and the first Halo and everything now is that they're pretty old, and all I could say was, I bet this was really amazing when it came out, but it's not really amazing anymore in the way it probably was back then. It's the world has moved on, so to speak, and technology and everything else has moved on, but the stories, like a good story is still a good story 20 years later. So they definitely have good stories. So I enjoyed that. StarCraft, Jerome, don't get me started. I could StarCraft really hard if I let myself. Yeah. Indeed, Aaron. Fallout 4 has semi taken over my life. I'm between jobs at the moment. So I have a lot of time. And what that meant last month is I read all of the Sun Eater books, except the newest one. And now it means I've played a lot of Fallout 4. I'm a sucker for three things in games. Cool exploration, where you can run around and find really interesting things in like an open world. I love that. A really good story. I love that. And base building. I'm a super addict for good base building. And Fallout 4 has very cool and interesting exploration and story. The base building is very janky, to be honest. Just mechanically, it's like kind of irritating, but it's also somewhat addictive, building a post-apocalyptic survivors camp kind of thing. So, Joe, good to see you, man. Welcome. Hope you've had a good week. You must construct additional pylons. Yes. I don't want to think about it. I could go on for quite a while about StarCraft. So how has everybody's week been? Tell me about yourselves. How things are going, how things have gone. I'm kind of getting to the point where I've had too much time on my hands being unemployed, and I really need to start looking for a job. Although a friend of mine just contacted me a couple of days ago and said he has a freelance gig for me. Probably. So that may be starting soon, and it would be good to be doing something interesting and productive again. I'm doing interesting Fallout 4 is definitely interesting, but it's not exactly real life productive. Quite the opposite. I also want to get back to reading. I've been not reading nearly enough. Um, I sat down reading Disquiet Gods by Mr. Ryuichiro. I know it's Rocchio. Don't worry. I started reading that again. It starts a bit slow compared to some of the. I won't spoil anything, but just by the way the previous book or where the previous book in the story ended, there was some getting things rolling again to be done at the beginning of this book. And that's just a bit slow. So it didn't like really hook me right at the beginning, like some of the other earlier ones did. So I've had that and video game addiction. It's been going slowly. Rogue, what's the crack? How you doing, man? Explain to me, Rogue. I mean, I know enough Irish people that I know what's the crack, but I don't know what crack in that sense, spelled that way, means or like where it originated. Explain, please, Rogue. Lots of work this week, Aaron. Not enough reading. Catching up with friends is good. I haven't seen my couple of best friends nearly enough lately. One of them was out of town for like a month, and the other one's very busy with his girlfriend and her family. Reading Dragon Waiting by John Ford, alternate history fantasy. For some reason, I have a picture in my head of the cover, but it may not be accurate. I might be absolutely incorrect. But sounds interesting. I mean, alternate history fantasy is I'm trying to think. I know I read some alternate history fantasy not too long ago, or at least I think I did. I'm trying to just looking at my shelf, trying to remember what it might have been. Evie is on her way home and may be able to join on screen. Cool. That would be lovely. And yes, Colton, I was correct. Coltane, not Colton, Coltane is legendary as fuck. Yeah. Anyone who has read House of Chains, or am I always mix up Dead House Gates and House of Chains. Dead House Gates. Anyone who's read it will agree. It's one of the biggest things. Coltane also sort of explains, doesn't really explain, but is a direct example of the concept of ascending in Malazan. That normal people can do abnormal, extraordinary things and become something like gods. It's just sort of a principle of the world, so to speak. I'm assuming that is Gaelic for fun. Okay. That's an easy explanation. I never realized that. It always sounds weird if you have no idea, if you don't know anything about Irish people, and an Irish friend comes up and says, "What's the crack?" The first time I heard it, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. No, I've become aware of the context that it means. How are things going, or is everything good, or you having fun, or whatever. Malazan might be the worst place to start reading fantasy. Yes, I would never recommend Malazan to someone. Like if someone said to me, I have never read this thing called fantasy, where should I start? I would not say, here's Gardens of the Moon. Never. I would probably say, here's the Belgariad, which Josh reminded me of. Josh, Red Fury Books. He said that would be the series he would probably recommend first. Not because it's the best, I don't know, example of fantasy or something to start with, but it's, I read it when it came out when I was a teenager, and it was the series that at the time amalgamated all of the fantasy tropes that had developed up until that time. It put together all of the mainstays of fantasy: a chosen one, a wise old wizard, a quest. I mean, it's got all the things. And it wasn't, unlike Sword of Shannara, it didn't feel like a direct one-to-one Lord of the Rings ripoff. So it seems like it's easy to read, as I remember. I know there's a second series after the Belgariad, which I wouldn't recommend. I don't remember that being very good. But the Belgariad, I forget how many. Is it a trilogy? I think it might be 5, actually. It's been a long time. I think because of that, the Belgariad could make a good introduction, because it's like, I've heard a lot of people say Mistborn, and like, Mistborn isn't what to expect in fantasy if you've never read fantasy before. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but it's not unique, but it's an outlier. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Yes, Rogue. I grew up in Australia, so I am well familiar with sarcasm. So yeah, we say the same. If things are great, we say they're not bad. So the opposite way around. Some people out there, yeah, no, of course, Daniel, there's always exceptions to the rule, but like, I wouldn't make it a broad rule that people should start with Malazan. Yeah, such folk are few and far between. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked for me. I think because Malazan is subverting a lot of fantasy tropes and playing with fantasy tropes in a lot of ways, you get a lot more out of it if you're already familiar with what those tropes are. If you've already seen 10 other authors do chosen one, quest, MacGuffin tropes, then you can see what Erickson's doing better. Yeah, exactly, Thornhill. Start with Dune and see if fantasy or sci-fi is your thing. Get both in one. Yeah. I actually was thinking of a new term for Dune. I'd say it's fantasy. When people say science fantasy, it seems more science fiction with a bit of fantasy, and I feel like Dune is more fantasy with a bit of science fiction. Just because it takes place in space, kind of, doesn't mean it's science fiction. But I think people disagree with me, and some people may even become grumpy at me for what I just said. Elderlings reread. Yeah, I'm starting to get the twitch. Like, I just finished recently my reread of 20 Men, and I've got the Ringwalds 4 books, and then I've got the last trilogy, which I've never read before. Everything else I've read at least once before. And Ringwalds, I actually remember being pretty good. I know a lot of people say it's the weakest in the whole Realm of the Elderlings, but that's like, Realm of the Elderlings sets a pretty high bar, and being the weakest in that is still something to be proud of, basically, I'd say. So yeah, I want to get back to those. Actually, someone asked me the other day, I think it was Trevor, after I finished Sun Eater, or this is the sixth book, the seventh book doesn't exist yet. So after I finish the sixth book, what am I reading next? And I have no idea. I have really no idea. I've been thinking about that for a while myself, and I've just been so blinded by Sun Eater since I started it. I haven't read pretty much anything else. I've just been back to back like Sun Eater books. I might actually just spend a couple of weeks reading short stories only or something like that. See how I go. Yeah, Rogue. 20 Man was indeed absolutely brilliant. I loved it. It's still insane to me that when she wrote Assassin's Apprentice, Robin Hobb thought the Fool, or intended that the Fool would be kind of a cameo character. Like, he wouldn't be in later books. He just sort of turn up to make things weird for a little bit, or only in the first trilogy maybe, and that'd be it. I have a hard time believing that, because the whole thing is developed into such a Fool is essential kind of story. But yeah, Mistborn's good for YA fantasy readers. Yeah, exactly. Like, if I didn't know, or if you didn't know fantasy at all, if you were a, I don't know, crime fiction reader or a science fiction only kind of reader, and you wanted something with magic and dragons and swords and shit in it, I wouldn't recommend Mistborn. Although I enjoyed the first trilogy. I started on the second one and was like, yeah, I don't know, Wild West Mistborn, really? But yeah, it's totally insane, Rogue. How could the Fool, probably in all 16 books, the most interesting character, how could the Fool not be in most of the 16 books? Crazy. Yeah, Live Ship, I would probably say, of the ones I've read, Live Ship's my favorite. But we'll see how Ramweld's hits me this time. I'm gespannt, as the Germans say, which is a cool German word that doesn't really have an English counterpart, not literally directly. Like, it means you are in a state of anticipation, but it's a verb, right? And what it means is, like, when you're shooting a bow and arrow, when you pull back the bow is gespannt. It's like tense and about to something, but in a positive way. Like, you can't really be negatively gespannt. It's like looking forward to a future something soon, somehow, kind of. Evie!
Hello.
Hello. So have you got a red skirt tattoo already?
No. So, I did talk to my tattoo artist about the candle / flower tattoo for Molly, and he's very excited about it.
Cool. For those of you who don't know, because Evie mentioned it on the Fireside Discord, she wants to get, for the Realm of the Elderlings fans out there, she's getting a Molly tattoo.
I'm planning it. My next tattoo is actually for Paragon. So, like, literally, we want to finalize the design.
All right.
So
cool.
That's
a Paragon tattoo. I want to see that.
Well, you have to finish the series, otherwise it's a spoiler for the series.
Ah, okay. So I've still got 7 books before I can see your tattoo close up. Okay, that's fine. I don't live anywhere near you, so the chances of me accidentally seeing it are very slim. Yeah. First Law as an introduction to fantasy. Yeah, depending on the person, I think that could work well. I think for some people they might get the idea that all fantasy is very dark and gritty, which isn't necessarily the case. But if you're a dark and gritty fan, then it could be exactly the right thing.
Rogue, which one of those is your light reading? Because those are all very complex. And not light.
I haven't read the Wirtz series, but I'd say Spear Cuts Through Water. I mean, it's not light, but it's lighter than Second Apocalypse.
True.
I mean,
it does
you
take
know.
a lot of brain power if you're not used to the narrative structure, though.
That's true. That's true. Brian, hi man. How's your studio setup going? Brian and I were chatting about ways to make something on the screen look a little more dynamic or whatever. Mr. Wraith is taking priority so far. That's something I really want to get into, but like at the moment, I have such a hard time summoning any enthusiasm for starting a new over 10 book series. But when I finish my Malazan reread and I finish my Realm of the Eldlings reread, maybe Wars, Light, and Shadow.
Also, hi Brian, hi Jerome, hi everyone.
Hi everyone who are also excited that Evie's here. Dandelion Dynasty's latest reading. Okay, yeah, no, I wouldn't. From what I've heard, I haven't read it yet. I've got it on my list to start this year. I have heard it's not that dark, at least, is my impression.
If you've read the Paper Menagerie, which I think you have, right, Matt?
I have.
So it's Kim Liu's like actual prose style is very similar. It's very consistent between the two.
Yeah.
So it's very accessible in that regard. It's just very grand in scope, and you have no idea what's going on. And he hops like no one prepared me for this. That like basically. Like when you start Grace of Kings, you are not only is it a prequel, which people did kind of basically warn me about. It's essentially a prequel set up for the rest of the series, but it's essentially stories. Like each chapter is very episodic. Does that make sense?
There's not like one character, one story kind of through.
There's a vast cast of characters, and so like he'll take a character from the one chapter and or a scene or a thing, and in the next chapter go into the backstory of that and like go back and forth,
jumping back and forth a lot. Okay,
yeah, but it still has forward momentum, so which is great. So
all right, cool. I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds like it's going to be exactly my kind of thing. Yeah.
Drone, I have 2 more books of the Black Company, by the way, and I'm so excited. Well, technically 3 if you count Port of Shadows, but I'm so excited to finish Black Company.
Yeah, that's also a thing I want to reread, or at least reread what I've read of it. We summoned Kyle.
We did summon Kyle.
Accidentally. We mentioned Dandelion Dynasty. Pete should probably be here any second as well. Wouldn't surprise me. They're both Dandelion Dynasty bros. You're welcome, Brian.
Editions go on sale tomorrow, everyone.
The what?
The midnight editions of Dandelion Dynasty from Broken Binding go on sale tomorrow.
Oh, I haven't been paying attention to those particular editions.
They're purple, so they're very pretty.
Okay. I'm not so huge purple fan, so maybe not for me.
I'm gonna have to leave. I'm so sorry. Sorry.
You can't even stand other people not being as into purple as you are.
Listen, I have to draw a line somewhere.
That is an important place to draw the line. Purple. Yes. Would you rather read 5 books of over 900 pages or 20 books of 200 pages?
20.
Yeah, see, for me, the number of books I read is completely And most of my favorite stories that I've read have books that are more like 900 pages than 200. I often feel I've read some novellas, which are like around 200 or under, and they've been good. I enjoyed them, and I always felt like I wanted more. I felt somehow unsatisfied. It wasn't enough coolness, you know. Um, Paper Menagerie, that kind of gives you an idea what to expect. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. Yeah, it doesn't shy away from dark themes, and I mean, certainly, I wouldn't even necessarily call anything in Paper Menagerie dark, but sad. There are very emotional stories. So yeah, what's up with that, Evie? Excuse racism, but I draw a line at not liking purple.
It's a community quote, so it's like I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty. You can excuse racism? Great show, by the way, if you haven't seen it. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, like I was talking about video games earlier. Video games I missed in the time I was not video gaming. Community was a television show that I missed in the decade or two I was not watching television. And I went back and watched it, and it's hilarious. Yeah.
Troy and I bet in the morning.
Kai L.
Hello.
First time in the pub.
Second time.
Oh, that's right. You did stop by once a while ago.
Yes. I usually watch after the fact, but I
usually
am hanging out with my wife on Sundays. So
fair enough.
Screw your wife. Is that what you're trying to say?
She's doing yoga teacher training. So she's been gone on weekends. Cool. Yeah, she's really liking it.
You're married to a yoga teacher? Isn't that like unlocking an achievement?
Not yet, but I will soon be married to a yoga teacher in June.
Wow. Okay.
So you will be a yogi? No, yoga.
He'll be yogurt.
You'll be doing yoga, basically.
I already do yoga.
Oh, okay.
Can't you tell?
Yeah.
Look at that baby face, smooth skin, and
I don't do enough yoga as I should. That's for sure. Jess is always trying to get me to do more.
No one does enough yoga.
She's a yoga teacher. It's her job.
She was like for her class recently. This ties into books. She's learning about Hindu mythology and like Indian mythology and stuff. And she's like, yeah, like we were talking about like the Bhagavad Gita. Oh yeah, I've read that. It's good. She's like, you've read that? And I was like, yeah, like it's good.
Kyle's read everything. What's up with her?
She just didn't know. And I was like, oh, like I'll get you a copy because they have one at the bookstore, and I just walk by it all the time and I never get it. So this week I actually went and bought her the Bhagavad Gita so she could use it in class because they're learning about it. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I've read parts of it.
Yeah, I don't remember it that well. Like I definitely couldn't like tell you that much about it, but I have for sure read it. I want to read it a little bit better sometime, but
I was reading it. Strangely, I was reading it the first time I ever got stoned with a sadhu in India. And the getting stoned with a sadhu was much more interesting.
Like you were beans? Like, are you saying getting stoned?
No, he means getting high.
Stoned or like getting stoned?
Yeah. Do you know what sadhus are? Sadhus are holy men who pretty much all of them. The guy I was smoking with was a dentist with a wife and 2 kids, and it's kind of a normal-ish practice in India to get a spiritual calling and give up everything and go out and become a sadhu. And these guys then go out and dedicate their lives to Vishnu or one of the gods and wander around basically owning nothing and smoking hash a lot. And I happened to be in a town where there was a sadhu jamboree. There were a whole bunch of sadhus from all over the place came to this town. And they were really chill, relaxed, funny dudes.
Sounds
I mean,
interesting.
I'd be concerned if they
You've led a
weren't.
wild life. Like you just
Yeah.
drop lore every once in a while.
It's true.
I've traveled a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
I
wish I had traveled more.
Well,
You traveled more than me,
you're only
Kyle.
16, Kyle. I mean, come on, you've got plenty of time to travel.
Listen, I traveled more before I was 16 than most people travel in their life. So, because I grew up on a carnival. So,
you grew up in a carnival, and you're telling me I've had a weird life.
oh no, I didn't say I also haven't had a weird life. I'm just saying that you have had an interesting life. But no, I grew up on a carnival in the States. My parents traveled around and stuff. So
you're Robin. You're Dick Grayson.
you know, I just wish one time in my life that I could say this and people didn't think I meant circus. I actually mean a carnival as in a fair, which is different than a
Right.
circus.
Something wicked this way comes. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
Fitz, get out.
Don't tell her what to do.
She's
That's
got
her
a
house.
thing. Yeah, that's true. But I'm much, much bigger than her. Not for much longer. I mean, she's growing crazy, but
I say that to my rabbits all the time. I'm like, they'll like be annoying. I'm like, do you understand that I could kill you accidentally and not even think about it? That's how much bigger I am than you.
aren't your
And you don't
rabbits,
respect that.
aren't your rabbits already dead?
Why would they be dead? Oh, you're talking about because they sleep with their eyes open. You're cruel. You're a cruel man.
You posted a photo of an unmoving rabbit staring glassily at the ceiling. And I'm just like, that does not look like a sleeping animal.
It is a sleeping animal. Whatever, man. People think it's cute. It's fine that you don't.
I'm sure the rabbit's cute, but like lying on the ground with its eyes open, staring at the ceiling, unmoving, like
it was staring at me. Thank you very much. Not the ceiling.
I thought it was sleeping.
It was sleeping with its eyes open, but like the eye line was to me. I mean,
okay, that is interesting, Dania. That the sadhus maybe predate Hinduism and that Hinduism incorporated it. That's actually one of the cool things about Hinduism. Hinduism can incorporate anything. Like, I'm a Buddhist. I was traveling with some people who are Christians, and in Hindu shops where they sell these photos of the god, or not photos of the gods, but prints of paintings of the gods, you'd go in there and there'd be Krishna and Vishnu and Kali and Jesus and Buddha, and like all done in the same style, all part of the Hindu pantheon. The Hindus, unlike everybody else, don't say we have the only truth. They say everything's holy, kind of, which is their single truth, I guess. But yeah,
Chatty, I'm sorry to hear that. That's very tough.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Chadia.
You lost it or it died? I assume you mean it died. Yeah. Okay. I'll stop making jokes about dead rabbits then.
Yeah.
That's bad timing. Sorry, Chadia. That sucks.
So what are you guys reading right now?
I am still eating the sun.
Oh yeah. I'm reading that book right now too, but I'm waiting for the audiobook. So I'm only like a quarter
I thought you
of the way
finished
in.
it.
No, I've been reading it since January. I just I got distracted for a while because I was in school and it was like just a little bit too dense for like school brain.
Right.
And then I was like, well, I'll just wait till the audiobook comes out. And then I thought the audiobook was going to come out when the book came out. So I started rereading a few days before that. And then I was like, it got delayed until April 30th. So I was like, So I like dip in and read a chapter every few days just to like make my...
Would you agree? I was saying this right at the beginning of the stream. It starts pretty slow. Like, just because of where the story's at. Like, the story kind of reached an end.
I think most of the books start pretty slow.
Yeah.
Kingdoms of Death starts really slow, I think.
I don't remember that way. But yeah, I've also just blasted through
them,
5 books.
Yeah, like I don't mean it as a criticism. I just mean like it generally because there's such a time gap in between each book that they start up kind of resetting up the new status quo for a lot of them. Like I think Quiet Gods has been good so far. I just like I hear the series in the narrator's voice, so it just helps me. And the one criticism I have of all the Sun Eater books consistently is how much he does the alien language, the Cielcim language, and then immediately translates it. I just don't like it. Like I just wish he was just like they spoke Cielcim and then you just like it's just like it's jarring for me to read physically So I like it more on
Ah.
audio because you're just hearing someone say it and then they're translating it after. It just feels different to me in audio than if I'm reading it physically.
It's funny actually. As the series has been going on, I've been getting annoyed how often he'll write something in Cielson and not translate it.
That's funny.
Like-
I'm probably just like, thank God when he does that. Like, I've probably just been like, oh, let's do it.
No, but he writes it in Cielson and then tells you nothing about what it means.
Oh, I don't remember that happening.
Yeah, it's happened.
I'm sure that I believe
number
that
of
this
times.
happened, but
Yeah.
I feel like I just move on. Like I'm just like, okay, I don't need to know what these people know.
I think some of it
Maybe
is that he's repeating things that you maybe should already kind of know because you've heard
That's a
them
lot
before.
to ask. That's a lot.
Yeah,
to ask
exactly.
for a
I'm not
person,
here to
yeah.
memorize a language. Yeah.
I it could also be like, so in the first season of Lost, they have Sun and Jin, and they're Korean and they don't speak English, and so unless it's the POV, like in Lost, they have like episodes where you get somebody's like POV. Those episodes they have subtitles, but in any other episode when they're speaking Korean, they don't get subtitles because they want
Everybody
they want
else
the
doesn't
people
understand.
to be like. So it could be something like that in certain scenes. He wants to emulate that, like.
Yeah.
Characters aren't supposed to know what they're saying, but I don't know for sure. I'd have to read the scene. It could just be
Yeah,
that.
I mean, considering the whole thing's first person, I'm pretty sure all of those scenes were ones with Hadrian.
Yeah,
in
I
them,
guess so. You're right. So
and
I don't know.
he understands Cielson, so I don't know. I just got the feeling that he was kind of like, I've been translating Cielson long enough. You're on your own. But anyway, starting Ashes of Man this week. Ashes of Man is really good, I thought. It's certainly not as heavy as Kingdoms of Death. I know.
I think
Brian
Ashes of
was-
Man
yeah.
is. Oh, sorry. Finish what you're saying.
I know that when Brian was about to start Kingdoms of Death, he was like, I keep hearing that it's depressing. And I think you and I both reassured him. Like it's not depressing, but there is a third of it that's hard.
Yeah, I was just memeing, like, because everybody talks about how memeing it is, and it is like there's some stuff, but like, it's not like I read it and like didn't want to live or something like that. Like, I just,
No,
like,
and I'm someone who does have a problem with depression, and I did not start suicide thoughts or anything when I read it or anything like that. No, it was a good book, but you were about to say you think Ashes of Man is.
I was gonna say, like, the beginning of Ashes of Man I loved, and then the end of Ashes of Man I really loved. I think it has the weakest middle. That would be my criticism of Ashes of Man. But I'm rereading the series, and like, Ashes of Man is the only one I didn't read on audio at all. I read an arc before it came out, so my opinions on that book are least credible because all of the rest of the books I had the amazing narrator to kind of guide me through it. So.
Yeah, I mean, the end of Ashes of Man felt like an end. It didn't feel like an end necessarily to the really, really big story, but it felt like an end for Hadrian. Not that he dies or anything. You even have a dead rabbit on your. Oh, I wasn't going to make jokes about dead rabbits.
This is a regular rabbit.
Oh, okay. It's not lying on the ground staring glassily at the ceiling. Okay, cool.
I just want to say real quick, because Colton asked, Speaks to Nightbird is amazing. I have 1 hour left of the audiobook, and I'm going to finish it soon. It's just somehow spectacular. Like, I guess it's technically like a murder mystery, or like not a murder mystery, but a mystery book. But it's so much more than that. I think the character voice is amazing. Robert McCammon's prose, 10 out of 10. It's just so atmospheric. Like, people will just be having conversations, and I'll just be lost in the conversation of like, it just feels real and authentic of like everybody's motivations and thought processes. And like, I've been genuinely shocked by some of the mystery aspects of it. Very good series. Highly recommend to people. And I can't wait to finish it.
And if it's an hour left on the audiobook, that'll only take you 20 minutes.
No, it's an hour left on the speed that I listen
at your speed. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Audible tells you the actual speed.
Normally 5 hours, but you only
speed.
1.
No, I will tell you right now. I'm listening to it at 2.7, which is about my average speed.
Crazy.
Darnell, to answer your question, I might have the unpopular opinion, experience of, as someone with depression, like reading Fitz's books are cathartic for me. So
I would imagine the same. I also have depression.
I would agree as someone with depression. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
I think like, and obviously it depends on the person and like the book, but I would imagine books that are hard to read if you have depression would be books where like the character themselves are specifically dealing with like suicidal thoughts or like things like that. Like I think
Yeah.
that might be triggering for people, but
Yeah.
Assassin's Apprentice is not like that. It's really just like a story of a guy, and his life is like hard sometimes, but the way that it's
Fitz
written
goes
is
through some shit, but Fitz
Yeah.
has I think one of the things that keeps Fitz going is he has a very innate love of life. You know, like
Yes.
he wants to do everything, and he's a bit of an idiot sometimes, but he's a very positive, motivated person in a way. So I would say Thornall, no, read it.
Rogue, I don't know if it's the same for your ebook stuff, but today Speaks the Nightbird is on sale in the Kindle store for $2.99. I don't know if you
Oh.
want to check and see if that's the same for you, but I just noticed that this morning. So
Cool. Yeah, I have, because I live in Germany and I don't want to read German, I actually cheated and registered my Kindle in America. So I can only buy
oh, smart.
English books from Amazon.com for the Kindle. But it gives me access to a lot more and cheaper English books.
That's smart. I have way too many ebooks because I get them in daily deals, or I get like ARC sent to me and stuff, and I'm just like I have way too many, and it stresses me out that I haven't read them.
Yeah, I have I have things in my Kindle library that I don't remember ever getting. Many, actually, because I've had a Kindle since like the first generation. So my Kindle library is kind of massive. And every now and then when someone suggests a book to me, I'll open my Kindle to see if maybe I read it years ago. I don't really read much Kindle anymore, but for a while I was traveling so much, I only read Kindle for like 10 years.
Dark Age is very depressing. Extremely
Dark Age,
depressing.
Red Rising.
I think the most horrifying scene I've ever read is in Dark Age. Like maybe not like the most horrifying, like objectively, whatever that means, but like the one that like impacted me the most for being disturbing.
Okay. Mini existential crisis after finishing Second Apocalypse. Yeah, I'm curious about Second Apocalypse. I've been kind of shoving it into the future for a long time. I'm like, I don't want to be in the middle of a Malazan reread while I'm starting Second Apocalypse. So after the Malazan reread, and yeah, maybe one day. We'll see. I'm definitely curious. They sound very cool.
I like the first one quite a bit. I didn't find it as dark as people said that it was, but
it just seems to be, or from everything I've heard, it sounds like a pretty nihilistic kind of series.
I'm told it gets worse after the first book. I don't think the first book is that dark. Like I don't think it has a light romp, but it's not darker than Malazan, I would say. But people say that like it progressively gets darker, and I have no reason to disbelieve that.
So does Malazan. I mean, the heaviest shit in Malazan is late in the 10 books. There's some pretty heavy stuff in the first few books, but the really hard to read scenes are towards the end. Yes, I would agree, Brian. Malazan first, not both at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I believe these people tell me it gets darker than Malazan. Like I've heard like individual snippets of things that happen, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Malazan overall, I feel like the idea behind Malazan is a very positive one, right? There are a lot of dark moments along the way.
I think Steven Erikson has more hope and optimism than Scott Baker.
Yeah, I mean, Erikson is definitely not a nihilist.
Yes.
Like I don't know if Baker really is or not, but it sounds like maybe. I don't know that much about him, but struggling what to read between Malazan and Realm of the Elderlings. Well, Evie and I might disagree here, but I would say Malazan. I mean,
I don't think I have enough information.
They're both awesome. I've read all of Malazan and I've read most of Realm of the Elderlings, so I can compare them well. They're very different, but Realm of the Elderlings is awesome and Malazan is awesome. So
what do you feel like reading? Like, what are you in the mood for? 'Cause
Exactly.
those are very different
mean,
feels.
You could also, Thurnall, you could appease both of us and just read Spear Cuts Through Water again.
Yeah,
I'm really
I'd be,
excited to read Spear Cuts Through Water. I'm
I'd
excited.
be happy with someone reading Spear Cuts Through Water, but it's not that long, and then you have the same question again. So it's really just postponing the inevitable. You're either going to
You
have to
can
piss
just
off Evie
reread
or
Spear
me.
Cuts Through Water. That's what I do.
That is not what you do.
That is what I do. By the way, Kyle, did you officially in school? Are you finished with school?
Like, I have not done my graduation ceremony, but I am officially graduating. Yes.
Yay! Well, because I remember last
Thank
time you were like, "Oh, I finished my exams," but you hadn't. I don't think you had gotten the official.
Yeah, no,
result.
I got B's and everything. So
Nice.
B's
Yay!
get degrees, fam. No, my graduation ceremony is end of May, so then I can start applying for jobs. Whether I'll get them is suspicious, but I can at least start applying for them.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be... Okay, thank you, Kyle. You get that. You get that
I do get
reference.
it, yeah.
I don't, but
Parks and Rec.
see,
John
Parks and Rec is one of those
and-
series I never saw and I haven't caught up on.
Okay,
So-
very important. First season of Parks and Rec, actively not a good show.
Yeah.
I would watch the first episode. If you're a completionist, slog through the 7 episodes or whatever. I would honestly really recommend though watch the first episode and skip to season 2.
Oh, okay.
It is-
That's good to know because I was like, okay, Parks and Rec, I'm aware of it. It's one of those series that everybody talks about and people have jokes about and whatever. I should probably watch it. I went back and I watched the first and second episode and I was like, damn, this is bad.
No, it's
And
actively not good. Like
I
the
stopped.
showrunners will admit it's not good. They did a complete rewrite of like how the characters interaction. Again, like if you're willing to sit through like 20 minutes 7 times to just like make sure you follow the story, or even just like watch the finale, like there are like story beats that are slightly relevant, but it's a sitcom, so they'll bring them back up.
I was
I feel
binging
like-
Suits recently, so I am
Suits is
someone.
good.
Is it? Is it though?
I mean, depending on what you mean by good. It's good TV to put on and watch and be like, none of this makes any sense, but they're charming.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot
I
of
would-
well written, snappy dialogue, and you know, it's kind of fun.
I like
But-
Harvey, you know.
I would
It's-
say season 1 of Parks and Rec is they were trying to do more of The Office, like recreate
Yes,
that. but
absolutely. Well, it started
Parks
as an
and
Office spin-off initially, and
Yeah.
it kind of evolved out of that. So
Yeah, and season 2 is where it gets goofy and it gets wonderful.
I still don't think season 2 is like really good. Like season
It's
2 is
because-
better. Yeah, they're course correcting, but it gets better throughout season 2. And by season 3, if you don't find season 3 funny, then like it's just not a show for you. But
But you have to watch season 2 because that's when they introduce Adam Scott's character.
and Rob Lowe, who
Yeah.
are 2 of the best characters. Yeah, like I like season 2. I was like, if I was ranking them, it would probably be second to last after season 1. But like also, I think Parks and Rec has the best finale to any sitcom that I've ever watched. Like I really love that finale.
Have you watched The Good Place, Kyle?
Okay. The Good Place has the best one. Those are the top 2 though. And they're both Mike Schur. So Mike Schur is doing the right stuff.
Yeah. The Good Place is literally the perfect series from start to finish. Like, it's so good.
Also, never seen it.
The Good
Place is so good.
Place is an example of when you give creators a set time limit so that they know how much time they have to tell a story rather than overstaying your welcome or canceling after season 1.
I have
So-
one criticism of the story of The Good Place, which I won't get into here. But other than that, I agree the show is extremely good.
Weigh your
All of
words,
the
Kyle,
cast,
weigh your words.
all of the cast are really good, and like it made me really, really respect Ted Danson. Like I already respected him, but there's a point, and Edie will know what this is. It won't say anything for anybody who doesn't know, where Ted Danson smiles, and that is one of the best acting moments on a sitcom I've ever seen. Like it is phenomenal, and it's just a very good show. It's very funny, but you're also learning philosophy at the same time. Can't say enough good stuff about that show.
Okay.
The
The
trolley
worst sitcom
problem-
ending, the worst sitcom ending is How I Met Your Mother. Not even close.
I haven't seen that because I couldn't get into it.
I couldn't get into it either. That was another one of the ones where I was like, this is apparently a big deal. I've never seen it. I'll go back and
Yeah, I mean,
watch.
I liked it. I have not rewatched it. The end of that show is so bad that like it actively colors the rest of the show for me. Like I'm just like,
You know what's a really bad ending? series ending? Friends. You know why? Because Rachel should not have ended up with Ross. She should have ended up with Joey. That's the hill I
That's
will
the
die on.
craziest thing anybody has ever said in the history of words. I cannot
Listen,
believe you said that. Everybody on earth that is not you thinks that was a terrible. I can't even. No, you know what? You're welcome to your crazy opinion. I respect that you have the audacity and the verve to think that.
what? I agree. Everyone else thinks that she shouldn't have ended up with Ross.
You're dating yourself, Brian.
Well, whether or not people think she should end up with Ross is one thing. I've never heard anybody think she should have ended up with Joey. That's wild.
I'm sorry, but the season where she's spoiler alert for Friends, by the way, people. The season where she's pregnant and Joey is the one stepping up and taking care of her and being kind and like, you know,
Joey's my favorite character. I just don't think they should have
Joey
ended up
deserves
together.
the world, dadgummit.
Matt's like, how did we get here?
This is what I think about Friends as well. What Rogue said.
I don't think it went on long enough. No,
Oh,
I'm just
man.
kidding. The last season is not that good. But I love Friends. I've watched it all too many times.
I hit a point at some part of my life where, like, the really obvious staged and canned laughter kind of sitcom, I just can't do it.
That's fair. And you are ancient. Like, you were like Stonehenge was being constructed, and you were there.
I
watching.
helped.
So
I helped.
You,
yeah.
you were already
Used to be a
inundated with
druid.
that type of.
Used to be a druid. So yeah.
You were already inundated with that type of comedy by the time Friends came around, whereas I was born into that type of comedy. So I'm sick of that now too. But I'm sick of that in new shows.
Friends was kind of where that kind of comedy should have died. Slightly before Friends is where it should have died.
Cheers, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I was watching Cheers, which of course I built Stonehenge, so I was watching Cheers as it came out every week. Watching Cheers, that was like just what sitcoms were at the time, you know. So it was, you didn't think about it, but I got to a point where I was like, a couple of things came out which were sitcoms. They were funny, but they didn't feel like you're sitting in a studio with an audience and the audience is laughing. And that was that kind of like, and then Friends, I couldn't get into Friends.
That's fair.
I don't know.
I also agree Ross is the worst, though. Like, the worst of the worst. Like,
It's true.
0 out of 10.
The YouTube videos of like the Ross scenes without the laugh track. It's like he's a psychopath. I'm like, it's true.
Ross is like a terrible person. Like, if Ross acted the way he acted, he would not have those friends. Like,
He would not have friends.
To be fair, Chandler was his only friend, and every other person was because of Monica.
that is true.
That's true. But Kyle,
Frasier, I also liked.
You
Also,
would like Frasier.
ancient.
I haven't seen that. My husband's been trying to get me. He finally got me to watch Cheers after we watched The Good Place.
I don't know where to watch Cheers. Like, I mean, I'm sure I could do it online, but like for a streaming service, we never have Cheers. I've seen Cheers like when I was growing up, but I have not like sat down and watched Cheers ever in my life.
Cheers Easter egg. I'm playing Fallout 4 right now, which is set in Boston. And there is a bar in the game called Prost, which is the German word for cheers. And it's the Cheers bar. You go in and all of the people from Cheers are there where they were always sitting in the show. There's a guy wearing a postman's outfit with a postman's hat on the bar. And there's a guy and a woman behind the bar. And, you know, it's the Cheers bar, just without them actually having to pay any kind of licensing or anything.
I have a regular at work whose name is Norm, and I just can't believe he has the audacity to come sit at the bar in a bar every day. Like, I just can't believe it. Like he actually doesn't drink. He's like an older professor. He's an electronics professor, and he just comes in and like has a coffee and like watches the game, like reads the newspaper and talks. So he's a very, very nice man. But I just can't believe he has the name Norm, and he's like, I'm gonna go sit every day at a bar top. I'm like, you're a stereotype, man.
Going back to TV stuff, Kyle, maybe you've seen this show, and maybe you've seen the original, Matt, but Wilfred, the U.S. remake of Wilfred.
I have not seen it. It's on my long
I
list.
don't know the Anywhere version of Wilfred.
This is Elijah Wood, right?
Yeah, so the premise is the main character well, he has a suit. Well, at least in the U.S. version, I haven't seen the Australian version, but in the U.S. version, the premise is that Elijah Wood's character has a failed suicide attempt. You very quickly learn in that first episode that what he thought were sleeping pills, that he was going to overdose on, were placebos. That his sister literally was like, "I know you're going to try this, so here's placebos, sugar pills." So he starts seeing his neighbor's dog as a man in a dog suit. So
Okay.
I didn't know that was the premise of the show.
Oh yeah, well there you go. That's the premise of the show.
Oh,
I've never even heard of it.
There's so many shows now that you're like, there's just too many. I prided myself on years and keeping like up to date on like current big shows, and like now I read more, so that cuts into my TV time. But even so, I'm just like, there's millions. Like I listen to a bunch of TV podcasts, and like I have like different critics and show discussers that I watch, and they always do like their end of year lists. And in previous years, I would at least be passingly familiar with every single show on all of their lists. And then like last year's, they did it, and I was like familiar with like 4 of them. I'm like, I don't know, like there's so many shows now.
It's even worse if you're an English speaker in Germany, because Netflix in Germany is not Netflix in America, right? So we get German shows that you never do, and we don't get some English shows that you do. Or every streaming service is like that. Like for the longest time, I was living in Germany and I could not watch on any streaming service in the world or in Germany. I could not watch a Clint Eastwood Western, any Clint Eastwood Western in English. They were all dubbed. They didn't have separate audio tracks. Some of them, like they have separate audio tracks, but older films in Germany are all dubbed German. That's it. So there's just a whole bunch of stuff that gets to Germany that I just don't watch because I don't want to watch it in German. I mean, if it's not originally German, I can watch Dark in German. Which
how is Dark?
Have you not seen it?
No, I've been watching for so long, and it never pops up when I'm like searching for stuff absently. And then when people are like, "Oh, you should watch Dark," I'm like, I should watch Dark, but I'm always in the middle of like 5 shows. So like I've never started it, but I really
Dark
want to.
is especially if you like time travel stories.
Yes, and I do.
It's insanely good. It's really, really good. And I watched it this time. I watched it in because I just actually yesterday, day before, finished rewatching it. Because the first time I only got up to the middle of season 2 and was not paying enough attention, so I got confused. And I was watching it in German, which was a bit harder. This time I watched it in the synchronized version, the dub version in English, because the English audio is actually clearer than the original German was. It's really good. It is a take notes kind of show.
You know what? Maybe I'll start it today. Maybe I'm watching some stuff right now, but I'm like, I'll just start Dark and see how I feel. I really want to get back on Shogun.
Dark is so good.
Because Shogun is very, very good. My problem is dumb, which is that I read a lot when I'm watching TV, but only for certain types of TV. Like if I'm really invested, I obviously won't. But if I'm like, I'll put on like House or something, and then I'll just, read a book, and then I'll have House on in the background. If I do that too often, my natural inclination is to start reading when I'm watching TV. So lately, I've been like, whenever I try and watch something, I'll just be checking my phone and be like, well, I'll sneak in 5 pages of Oathbringer or something. And I can't do that with Shogun. So I just haven't been watching Shogun because I don't want to miss anything. So I have to like get back in the mindset of like, you're watching TV, Kyle. Watch TV. So
yeah. Dark is like, if you read for 5 minutes, you've just fucked up the show for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I would never do that with Dark. And I'm 100. Yeah. I wouldn't even touch my phone.
Yeah, it's really a concentration kind of show because there are some insanely weird things going on. I watched the finale of Shogun and I won't say anything else, but I'm disappointed.
Did you read the book? You haven't read the book?
No, and I read the beginning of the book, and I've heard from people who read the book that the end of the book is similar.
Yeah, it doesn't do the thing.
It doesn't like. It feels like the whole thing is building up to a thing.
I have that as a criticism of the book.
Yeah.
So, but I expected that to be like
Yeah.
it could have went either way with me in the show because I do think in a visual medium it would have been better to have the thing.
Yeah.
But if they're trying to be accurate to the book, I understand why they wouldn't do that. So I can't really have it as criticism because like it's a more accurate adaptation. But I would have preferred the thing, but I don't know how the show handles it. So
There's a I'm not someone who is like addicted to the stereotypical American movie structure,
right.
you know, where you have to have the big dramatic climax thing at the end. I like a lot of weird European cinema as well, where it just sort of leaves it open at the end and whatever. But that ending in the series with that thing not happening felt like it didn't belong to that series. Like the
I
series is
agree.
intense and things are moving forward and happening and drama and boom, you know, there's like big shit happening. And then at the end, it's just like there's a conversation, and then the thing you've been waiting 10 episodes for doesn't happen, and it's over.
Yes, I agree with you. I have a feeling I know what happens in episode 9, and I have a feeling that episode 9 is going to be my favorite because that was one of my favorite parts of the book.
Episode 9 was pretty
and
epic.
I do think that is the climax of the book. It's just not
Yes.
the climax of what you would expect to be the climax.
It's not the climax of what the story has set you up to expect the entire time,
Yeah.
basically, you know? And it's, yeah.
Evie, what episode are you on?
I'm not watching it, so.
What's
I thought you
wrong
were
with
watching
you?
it with Alan.
No, Anitha, Pete.
Your whole posse's watching it and you're not watching it with them? Do you hate Japanese people?
You do, don't you?
Well, I mean, if anything, I would be reading, what is it? Mishima? No. Oh my god. What's the name of it?
Not only does she hate Japanese people, she can't even be bothered to remember the name of their art.
Musashi.
Musashi?
Musashi? Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to read that book. But the show is incredible, and it's made by Japanese people, so you should watch it.
Well, I'm far behind, so.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure my husband would not want to watch that, so.
It's really good.
It's
It
like
is-
better than anything that I've watched recently. Like,
It is really good,
I mean,
and the end was
Is that
dissatisfying.
is that a high bar though? Like, I feel like most TV nowadays is kind of has a very low bar.
yeah, but I watch the best shit. Like, and I don't mean like best shit, like the stuff that I think is good. I mean, like I watch the stuff that like rises to the top that people talk about a lot as being good. One of the things I really don't like is when people are like, you know, trying to recommend a show or whatever. They're like, oh, I need recommendations. What should I watch? And the 10 people around them all recommend whatever is number 1 to 3 on Netflix that week. And it's like, you're just recommending that because it's popular this week. Like, if this show isn't worth talking about in 6 months, then it's not that good. So like, wait and let it sit a little. And you can hear by the way people are talking about shows, which shows might actually have that. Like, sometimes
Longevity,
it's wrong.
yeah.
Like when I watched Beef, like I wasn't going to watch Beef because I was like, it just seems fine. But the way people were talking about Beef, I'm like, this show might actually be like a show that is.
Are you talking about the one on Netflix with Steve Young?
Yeah.
It's a
Did you
show? I
watch
thought
it?
it was a movie.
No, it's a miniseries. I guess it's a show now. It's very, very good. It's
Beef?
extremely good. And it's funny and it's emotional and it's intelligent and it's very well shot. It's just like a extremely good show. And I can't explain how I know when the way people are talking about it, but you can tell when people are watching it because it's a fad, or if they're watching it because it's like actually moving them. And that's the shows I tend to watch. So when I say that I watch the best stuff, I don't mean like I'm like everything I like is good. I just mean like I watch the stuff that has been vetted. No, because I love Spartacus and everybody else like doesn't seem to want to jump on the Spartacus train. I'm like, you're all wrong, but that's fine. Spartacus is amazing.
Kyle
Bear.
is indeed I am Spartacus.
When you were just talking about how people feel about series, The Bear.
Oh, The Bear. Oh, so good.
Oh my god. And I bumped into that completely by accident because, strangely enough, it's on Disney Plus in Germany.
It's on Disney Plus here.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
it's an
doesn't-
FX show or a Hulu show, something like that.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. And it just like I always think of Disney Plus as if I want to turn my brain off and watch a Marvel movie or a Star Wars animated something or whatever, that's Disney Plus or Pixar movies or
Do you
whatever.
guys have Shogun?
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Disney Plus?
Shogun's
Yeah.
also on Disney Plus. Yeah. So they're obviously getting into doing some excellent drama or showing some excellent drama. They're not producing it. But I bumped into the bear totally by accident, flipping through Disney Plus. There's all of these cartoons and superheroes and Boba Fett's and whatever. And then there's a dude in a chef's apron. I was like, what is this? I watched the first episode and I was like, damn, what is this?
Have you ever worked in a restaurant?
I have not, but I had a girlfriend that I lived with who had worked in multiple and was an amazing chef, but also told me stories. And I used to live with a guy in Australia who had his own restaurant. So I'm very familiar with the like
Yeah, the
back of house.
it's an
thing.
extremely well-liked show in the restaurant industry, like for good reasons. But like I've never met a person in the restaurant industry that has watched it and not thought it was extremely good. Like I've sent some that are like, oh, like it's not really my style of like show, and they drop off, but they're all like, it's so accurate and like really, really well done. And like it gives people PTSD, like the episode where all the chits come out.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I mean, I watched that episode and then I'm like, oh no, like it's just, oh man, it's really well done. And,
There are particular episodes of that were almost like physical experiences, you know, where like after watching it, I couldn't continue to watch anything else. I
yeah,
just
that
I was
episode
almost
and then
I was almost sweating, you know.
Fishes is very, very
Yeah.
stressful.
Yeah. Oh God. The family.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that episode, I nearly had a heart attack. It was so, and it's just amazing with the editing, the sound, the acting, the pacing of it just increases and increases and increases and increases.
What's interesting about that episode is how many like really awesome actors are in it. So when you first start the episode, you're like, oh, they got this person, they got this person. But at the end of the episode, you just don't even care that it's those people. You're just like so stressed about the actual story that you're just like, I don't care that Bob Odenkirk's here. This is stressful. Like
Jamie Lee Curtis in that was insanely good. Oh my God.
Yes.
What show is this again?
The
Bear.
Bear.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a different show. You thought you were talking. Yeah.
No,
whatever.
still The Bear.
You haven't watched The Bear?
No.
Evie,
The Bear,
watch this
like
stuff.
when I recommend it to people, it's one of those ones where you always have to say, it doesn't matter how I describe it, you have to watch it. Because it's about a Michelin star chef taking over his family's sandwich shop.
It's really good representation of trauma, but it's not like beating you over the head with it. Like it's also just telling a story about a sandwich shop and like these employees. But it's also like, oh, this guy is hella traumatized, and it's just very very emotionally intelligent show without beating you over the head with it.
Yeah.
And
It's
also
very
funny.
It's very rare. Like books slide past and get in and affect me emotionally. But it's really rare for television to do it. Somehow I always feel a bit of distance when I'm watching television. But there were episodes of The Bear where I was like, I need a minute. You know, it's really intense and super good, super good. Such good acting, such good writing. I love the way it's shot as well. It's shot in a very sort of handheld, fast moving kind of way. And it's excellent.
Hey, Britton.
Hey, Britain. Italian, watching some of those episodes, heard curse words, haven't heard since grandfather was alive. Yeah. It's an Italian family. Yeah. Shall we maybe read?
Sure.
I'm pro reading.
We feel like a sprint
Yeah, let's do it.
until Q2, let's say.
Okay, sounds good. I'll mute
Cool.
myself.
Enjoy your reading, everyone. See you in half an hour. Hello.
Hello.
You muted, Kyle.
Evie finished the book. I was just reading her review.
Technically, I finished it this morning, but I
Oh,
just
did you?
read the review. Yeah.
Which book?
How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia. Oh, Jesus Christ, cat. How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. So.
Aha. Alyssa's here.
Take my advice if you want to read that book, read it like a collection of stories rather than an actual novel. Read it like a collection of interconnected stories. You're gonna have a bad time if you try to read it as a novel.
Okay.
It was fine.
How much did you get done, Matt?
I don't know how many pages, but it's starting to get more interesting.
What chapter are you on?
Good question. 16.
Oh, okay, yeah. You're in the slow part.
Yeah. I'm still at the beginning.
I'm at chapter 23, I think.
Okay.
Chapter 25.
I'll probably be there tomorrow if I don't get completely sucked into Fallout 4 again.
Yeah.
Which I probably
half an
will.
hour left of Speaks the Nightbird, and it was getting pretty crazy. So.
Okay. I've heard the title many times, but I don't know anything about it. Yeah, Robert McCammon. I've never read anything by him.
Why did I think you read Boy's Life? You haven't read Boy's Life?
Nope.
Man, you would love Boy's Life. That is a book you should prioritize. You would really like it.
Heard that numerous times, and it's on my list.
For sure. So Speaks the Nightbird is the first in a current 8 but total 9-book series. It is like, I would describe it as historical fiction and like a mystery series, at least so far, but like the writing and the character work is the main reason I would say to read it. Like,
okay.
It's set in 1699 in the colonies of the US, and the premise is the Salem witch trials have happened like 7 years ago or something, like in recent memory. Yeah. And this woman is accused of being a witch. And so they call a magistrate in from England.
Are these the Matthew Corbett?
Matthew Corbett. And then so the magistrate comes in, and his clerk is this guy named Matthew Corbett, who is like a 20-year-old, very, very sheltered, hasn't really seen much of the world. And they start going through and interviewing the witnesses, and it's very clear that like the evidence is overwhelming that this woman is a witch. And so, but Matthew Corbett's like, this doesn't make sense to me. These stories aren't lining up. And the magistrate's like, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. And he's like, I don't think you do. So then like the story is from there of like him trying to figure out what's going on. So it's like a small town, like Gothic vibe. I wouldn't describe it as horror, but there's definitely like some suspenseful horror-ish moments, but like it's not like a horror book. But the character is really good. The writing is fantastic, and it's just so eminently readable. Like, and I don't really like mystery books, but like it's more about how like Matthew Corbett is just really interesting, and like the way he talks to people. It's just like a very good book. And then the first one seems to be the longest one. I don't know why.
The whole series is to do with this one story, or it's
no.
The one character.
The one character, and I think the one town, but I don't know for sure. And I don't know if it becomes more serialized over time. I have a strong suspicion that this book is going to end with this case being figured out, but I don't know for sure.
Right.
And then he probably solves other cases. Colton is here, and he will probably explain because he binged all of them in like a month or something.
Yeah, he and numerous other people have mentioned McCammon, specifically Boy's Life. I've heard it over and over again that it sounds like something I would actually really love. Rogue is also into it. Fitz has gone a little zoomy, like she always. You'd think, I know cats are like animals of routine, so you'd think that she would have gotten it by now, that she eats dinner at 10 in the evening. But without fail, specifically dinner, like lunch is generally okay. She's relaxed, but At 8 every evening, she starts freaking out. And then if I get up at any point and go to the kitchen
She
for
thinks it's
anything, she thinks she's getting fed 2 hours early or an hour early, half an hour early. And she loses her shit when I don't feed her. And right
that's
now she's like bouncing all over the flat and clawing things and yelling at me occasionally. And
yeah, that's an animal thing. It's like, oh, okay. I get fed at the same time every day, but this is the day that you're gonna feed me early.
yeah, what's the word? They are crepuscular, which means that they hunt and feed just biologically. They are built to hunt and feed at dawn and sunset.
Yeah, rabbits are the same way. My rabbits get mad, like they want it to be fed at a certain time every night. So if you don't feed them at that time, they will riot. But they also riot whenever you walk into the room with any food.
Yeah.
You don't even eat this food. Like they'll just be like, "This looks like food," and I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah. Yep. I've been trying to teach her 2 words. One is mat food and one is fits food. And when I'm eating, I'll say to her over and over again, no, get the fuck away from me. This is mat food, mat food. No, mat food.
She's focusing on food.
Yeah,
Not
she
your
gets
mat.
she
She's
gets the
got
food
that
bit.
part of it.
She gets the food bit really good. Yeah, if I fed her, first of all, like I don't know if it's this extreme everywhere. I remember it being less extreme when I lived other places. But the difference between light in winter and light in summer here is super extreme. Like in winter, it'll be black outside at 5. And right now, there's still a little light in the sky and it's almost 10. So it's like a 5-hour difference. But in winter, if I fed her anywhere near evening, like sunset, she'd wake me up at 2 a.m. wanting food. You know, that's why I feed her so late. I feed her at 10 so that I can at least sleep until 7, maybe 8. You know, otherwise. Okay. So the Matthew Corbett series goes well beyond the town of Fount Royal. Okay.
Cool.
Vampire the
never heard of
Masquerade
this.
novels. I never even played the role-playing game. I know a lot of people who play the role-playing game, but when I was a teen and in university, I was not a goth. So I did not play Vampire the Masquerade. I wasn't even a wannabe goth. So I never played those. I always wanted to be a hero with a sword, so I played those kind of role-playing games. The let's be sneaky, super cool, well-dressed monsters was never my thing. So no, Thornall, have not read it. Boy's Life is kind of structured like a book of short stories.
I don't agree with this at all. I'm sorry. He's just trying to get you to read this book, and I appreciate the hustle. But don't sell him a bill of short goods. I mean, maybe you actually do believe that, Colton, but I don't see it. I feel like it's pretty clearly like it's very slice of life. Like I would agree with that.
Do you think it's like he's meaning more like episodic and like, oh, one chapter is this portion? Kind of like Anne of Green Gables in a way.
Well, I haven't read Anne of Green Gables, but I don't think so. Like it's telling.
You're in Canada and you haven't read Anne of Green Gables. I feel like
even worse. I am friends with Anne of Green Gables' great nephew. His name is Jake Bishop, and I still have not read it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, like so the premise of Boy's Life is the very first chapter or the second chapter or whatever. This boy in Alabama, they find like a dead man in a car that has been like put in a river. Right. And then it's like, how did the dead man get there? And then also at the same time, he's just like, living his little boy life, like hanging out with his friends and stuff. And there's a little bit of like magical realism going on, but it's mostly just about this kid, learning to grow up and stuff.
There's a story by Raymond Carver. You know Raymond Carver?
I know of him, yes.
Yeah, and there's a story. Oh, yeah. It's called So Much Water, So Close to Home. and it's about three sort of typical middle class working dudes who go out of town on the weekend to fish. And when they're fishing, they find a corpse in the river of a woman who has obviously been strangled. She's just weighted down with some rocks. And they decide to leave her there and not ruin their fishing weekend. Because she's dead already, and what's going to happen. And the story is much more, it's not that much about that. That's sort of what happens at the beginning. It's much more about what happens with their lives because of it. Because it's a really hard story, but very good. Carver.
What's the name of the short story again?
So Much Water, So Close to Home.
Okay. I'll look that up. That sounds interesting.
And bonus trivia, Paul Kelly is a songwriter from Australia. He's an Australian jewel. I love Paul Kelly, and he has a song based on the story called So Much Water, So Close to Home. And that's actually how I found the novel, because I was like, that's a weird name for a song. And I Googled it to look at the lyrics, and I came up with the story. Yeah.
Have you read any Stephen King, Matt?
I read a middling amount of Stephen King. I love The Dark Tower.
Okay.
I've read The Stand. I read years ago some of his short stories in various collections. I don't really remember.
Have you read The Body?
No.
Oh, The Body's phenomenal. And it's similar in that, like, it's these, teenage boys that go and they hear through the grapevine that there's a dead body in the woods somewhere, and they're like, oh, we're going to go see it. And so it's like them going to go. But they made the movie Stand By Me over it.
Okay. Oh, yeah. No. I know of it because of the movie Stand By Me, which I have seen, but many, many years ago. Okay. Colton's pushing back.
I don't agree. That's okay, Colton. The important thing is to get Matt to read it. So, it's totally, it's short stories, Matt. It's short stories.
Yeah, no, I'm not falling for Colton's shenanigans. When I say I want to read a bunch of short stories, maybe as a break.
You know what? You should read different seasons.
I have about a meter of short stories on my shelf already.
Yeah, I have so many.
I went on a short story book binge a while back, and I have many. Oh wow! Also, I was reading Return of the Crimson Guard. This is one of the reasons that I want to finish my Book of the Fallen reread, is so I can get onto. Well, and I'm doing it in the ultimate reading order, which is putting the Esselmont and Erikson other books where they belong in the chronology. So I will actually get to Return of the Crimson Guard and some of the other ones before I finish the Book of the Fallen again.
So you haven't read them?
I have read Night of Knives. I haven't read any of the other Esselmont books or any of the outside. Yeah, it's all right, but it wasn't great. And I've heard.
I also hear Return of the Crimson Guard isn't great, but then after that, I hear it's good. So
yeah, I'm interested in the Crimson Guard. There are certainly interesting, mysterious characters who have a Bridge Burners-ish feel.
There's a character named Kyle. I know that.
Exactly.
Nobody tells me.
Yep. And iron bars and.
Part of me wants to just be like the ultimate hipster and stop reading Malazan and just read the Ian Esselmont books and just finish all them and be like, that was good, and then just never finish Malazan.
Where are you up to in Malazan?
Midnight Tides.
Oh, okay. So you're still on the first half.
Yeah, I don't like the series as much as a lot of you people, and I really don't like how everybody talks about it. So I just took a break. I did read House of Chains, and I recommended to Bookborn that she will not like that book under any circumstances. But I told her, I was like, if I like Midnight Tides, because a lot of people really like Midnight Tides, and that's like standalone-ish, that I'll recommend that she reads Midnight Tides. And if she likes Midnight Tides, then it might be worthwhile to go back and read House of Chains, because then you get Bone Hunters. But if I don't find her she's really worried about dark content, because we were doing the buddy read, and there's some stuff in the 4th book regarding Karsa that she was a little concerned about. So when I read it, I was like, I don't really think you're going to like this book. But if I think the series is really great, I don't want people to miss out on the series because of one book. So
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you also, like, maybe not so relevant for you, but probably for her, the darkest stuff is in the second half.
But it's specific types of dark. Like,
yeah,
I know what her triggers are, and so that's why she was like, she gave me the blessing to like go ahead and recommend what I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could be wrong, but it's specifically child harm is really hard for her, and House of Chains is quite child harmy. So
child harmy, yeah, no, it is certainly. And
but I am excited for Midnight Tides, because
Karsa is a controversial character.
That's the only good part of that book, I think. Maybe not the only good part, but like, man, I didn't love House of Chains. I like the first 3 significantly more.
Right.
But the best parts of
Karsa is the
House
best
of
part.
Chains is
I mean,
Karsa.
I loved reading about Karsa. I won't say I love Karsa, because Karsa is
yeah, he's a psychopath. I mean, like
he's a psychopath, and he's also
the
kind of
journey he goes through
plague on humanity. Yeah, and I mean, and all the way through the series, like, there's a lot more Karsa coming. And you haven't started Midnight Tides, or
no? I don't know when I'm going to start it. Like, I mean, this year for sure, probably this summer, but not next month or anything like that.
Yeah, Midnight Tides is really, really good.
Yeah, I have faith that I'm going to like it. Like, people think because I stopped talking about Malazan and that I don't like, I'm not like over the moon about it, that I didn't like it. But I'm like, I gave 3 of those books 5 stars. Like, it's not like I don't like it. I just, people exhaust me when I'm like, hey, I didn't really like this thing. And then 75 people come out of the woodwork and they're like, well, you see, God King Erickson actually has a plan. Did you not know the plan's coming? And then, like, what's your plan? And then it's all a thing. I'm like, could you just settle down and make, like, I can have a criticism. It's fine. So all that stuff just kind of exhausted me.
I'm not one of those kind of Malazan.
No, you're not. And like, a lot of
I love talking
are
about
really
it.
nice. Like, I don't want to paint it like anybody talking about Malazan is bad. I'm just saying that, like, there's those people come out in waves when you have a criticism, and it's exhausting. Yeah.
I can understand that.
Evie, did you DNF Gardens of the Moon again?
I mean, after the first time I DNF'd it?
Well, you DNF'd Deadhouse Gates.
Yeah, so I read Gardens of the Moon, started Deadhouse Gates, DNF'd it, restarted Gardens of the Moon, DNF'd Gardens of the Moon.
Well, at least you're consistent.
3rd time's the charm.
Do you know what was the straw that broke the camel's back, Kyle? And maybe this will make you giggle. Erickson writing that a character, and I can't remember what character it was, squeezing their knees around the horse's shoulder.
Oh, you told me this.
Yeah.
That's you just being crazy. That's fine. But I appreciate the commitment to horse accuracy. I'm on your side with this one. But that's a very minor thing.
It was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Evie is a crazy horse lady.
It's true.
She is. So,
you know. I found the crazy cat lady in Fallout 4 today. This is one of the things I love about that game is it rewards exploring places, even if there isn't like, huh?
I do really want to play it. I haven't watched the show yet either. I am totally new to the whole universe.
It really rewards. I hate it. I love exploration. I love open world games, but I hate it when you spend like an hour running around an area and you find nothing. Like, it's just landscape.
Games are too big now. Like, that's my hot take. Like, they thought that we wanted big open worlds, and for the most part, we don't. We want interesting worlds, and I don't think game developers have totally seized upon that.
Fallout 4 feels really big. I don't know in square kilometers how it compares to any open world game, but it feels really big. But you're constantly finding stuff. Like there is, and they do the signposting really well. Like if you're standing somewhere and look around the landscape, you see a number of things where you think, if I go there, I might find something, and you always do. You know, they've built it really well, and sometimes it's just weird little things. Like I was running around in a town there, and I was like, oh, there's this area up there that I haven't been to. I'm going to go up there and just open some doors. And I go in, and there's a crazy cat lady. And she has a connection to another character that I've talked to, and you know, there's a little story there, but there's not like a major quest.
I do like stuff like that. You know, one of the things I really like about The Last of Us, which is a phenomenal game in all respects,
absolutely,
is the like little notes that you pick up, and you there's like stories of characters that like you never meet. You just collect their notes and you see what happened to them over time, and that shit was so cool.
Fallout 4, there are audio recordings. You find little tapes all over the place that you can play on your little wrist-mounted monitor, Pip-Boy. And there are monitors that still work in all sorts of buildings, which tell a little, like you put together pieces and find numerous monitors, and they tell a story about what happened there. You know, it's really
Horizon
well
is the same way. You get a lot of the story through audio clips.
Yeah.
Speaking of Horizon, I restarted Forbidden West. Nice. I've been playing that. So that's why, that's the reason that I have now of the only book that I started in April and that I have finished in April is How High We Go in the Dark. So
I don't like Forbidden West as much as the first game. I find that its quality of life isn't as good. And I find that some of the mechanics aren't as well done, but I really like the world and like the combat system and like all the stuff I liked from the first game is still there. It's just the first game was just incredible. I just loved it. Yeah. And I know a lot of people like the second one better, but I guess it's my hot take that I don't. But I haven't finished it.
I also like the first one better. I'll agree with you there. I played the second one and I was like, yeah, it's not bad, but the story in the first one was, and also one of the things that just constantly kind of amazes me, like my first job out of university was doing 3D animation. So I know 3D animation pretty well. And Horizon, I looked at it and I was like, nobody ever has done humans better than this game. Like there were some people that you're talking to in that game that looked almost like they were filmed, you know, but it's all 3D.
Speaking of that, pouring out for our homie Lance Reddick. Gone too soon.
What?
The guy who plays Silence? Lance Reddick.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, like Lance. Yeah.
I just was thinking, I'm like, he's really good in that game.
Yeah.
I think the first game...
He's got a great voice. He's got an insanely good voice.
The first game, sometimes when people were talking to them, their facial reactions weren't very good. But the second game, I think, fixed that. Like I think the second game's like visual animation for the characters looked very good.
The facial animation wasn't awesome, but the textures and the structure and just in a still how real the faces look.
So I don't know if Matt wants to call it or if he wants to solo for a while.
All right, I might call it. Yeah, actually.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to leave in like 5 minutes. So I was like, I figured I might as well say something because I really need to go make some food. So
yeah, we'll have a short pub this week because, like I said at the beginning, I am kind of tired, and Fitz will probably start eating my foot.
You know what's funny? Last anecdote. In my class for geology recently, my professor was talking, and like it was like a Wednesday or something. I've just never seen a professor do this. We finished the unit that we were going to be working on, and it was like 10 minutes or maybe 15 minutes into class. And he was like, "Well, we're just going to start like the next unit of stuff." And he starts talking about like the first slide, and he just looks at us. He's like, "You know what, guys? You can just go home. I'm just kind of feeling tired today. Like we finished what we had to do. Like it's fine. You can go." And I've just never seen a professor just be like, "I'm tired. You can go home." And I'm like, "Oh, I respect it."
If you got tenure, I guess you can kind of do what you want.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, I'm gonna drop. Evie, Matt, nice to see you guys.
Cool.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks for coming,
All right.
Carl. And you're also going, Evie?
Yeah, I gotta figure out dinner. So,
All right.
by the way, just for like official status, I'm still enjoying Gormenghast Trilogy. It's just taking me for freaking ever to read it.
Yeah.
My brain is not wanting to concentrate.
Yeah, I've been having that problem with this one as well. Partially, maybe because I just sort of binged 5 of them in a really short period of time, and I'm just a little sun eaten. Yeah, just like had enough. But it's probably also just my mind more than my reaction to the books. Like I said, I've been playing Fallout 4 way too much. And I should probably tone that down a little and read a little more. But yeah, both are fun. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining the pub on screen or in the chat. Kale looks like he just joined. Kale is, if I remember correctly, in Australia, in Perth.
And Matt just joined. Great timing, Matt.
Matt just joined. Yeah, we're calling it, making it slightly shorter. Kyle and Evie had to go, and it's it's also 10 in the evening here. Yeah. Like, and my cat is starting to chew on my toes. Melbourne, that's right. Kale is in Melbourne, which is a lovely city as long as it's not winter. My concept of like living in Australia is it shouldn't be cold. Otherwise, why live in Australia? And if you live in Melbourne, that's not how it works. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Blame the cat. Exactly. Fitz is responsible. It is, after all, her flat. Cool. So good to see you, Evie. Good to see all of the regulars and maybe new faces. I'm trying to remember, were there any new faces in the chat? I don't think so. I think it's mostly regulars, which is totally fine by me. Thanks for everybody who comes regularly to the pub, and I'll see you next week on Sunday. Have a good week. Ciao.